Hello everyone, this is Bobbin Threadbare, and welcome back to Weaving Worlds. Today's topic is going to focus on fantasy races and alien species again, but this time I'm zeroing in on how to approach the difference between humans and non-humans. Specifically, most authors treat humans as normal, as standard. Elves are more beautiful and live longer, while orcs are more ugly and live shorter lives. Thus, non-humans are defined by what makes them different, while humans are defined by all of the things they aren't. And it is perfectly understandable why most authors do this. Most people think of themselves as normal, even when they know objectively that they're somehow exceptional. On top of that, everyone in the audience knows what a human is like, so why not use that as a point of reference? But what if you wanted to challenge that paradigm? What if you wanted humans to be exceptional in some way, and without changing human nature? Your audience will still have their point of reference, but within the setting, everyone would probably consider some other species to be the median. It's an interesting way to challenge your audience's preconceptions, and it makes your setting stand out. Just don't say that humans are the most diverse or the most adaptable, because that's just a fancy way of saying that humans are nothing in particular. Instead, let's go over some of the more interesting categories for humans to be at one end of. Size. In real life, there are a large number of animal species that get much bigger than humans. However, the vast majority of animal species are smaller, so it's not that unreasonable to think of a setting where humans are giants compared to everyone else. You could even do it with a hard science setting, since parrots and ravens prove that small brains can still reach significant complexity. In a setting like that, humans would be the species painted as brutish, clumsy, and slow. It would be a good way to point out how baseless those assumptions are. Plus, it's also interesting to have a setting that, to a human character, feels small and fragile. On the other hand, you could create a setting where humans are the smallest known race, and all of the others are giants by comparison. Maybe it turns out that Earth is as light as a life-bearing planet can get, and so all of the other species out there in the galaxy are massive and built for much heavier planets. In that case, humans would be the small and fragile ones. And there would be so many big, densely built species out there that it would be impossible to stereotype them all as being brutish. Well, I mean, it's always possible to paint with broad strokes, but it would be extremely easy to prove false. Longevity. Even before modern medicine, humans had one of the longest lifespans of any animal on Earth. The average lifespan sat at around 30 for a long time, but mostly that was from infant and childhood mortality rates. If you made it to adulthood, you had a good chance of living past 60. So, what if that was also an exceptional lifespan in your setting? Perhaps the other intelligent races mature and age more rapidly, and they see humans as annoyingly slow in how they waste time waiting for things, playing around, and sleeping. We humans see our time on Earth as all too short, so what would we think if non-humans had even less time than us? And what about the reverse? What if every non-human race lives longer than humans, and so we're the ones who are always in a hurry? If metabolism is the cause, then we would be the ones annoyed by how slowly everyone talks and how leisurely they move to get places. But if the cause is more from magic or some other less scientific reason, then the long-lived races could still act on a human time frame, but be far more patient and far-sighted than the average human. Maybe to a fault, or maybe not. That's for you to decide. Beauty. Beauty is kind of a loaded trait, both because beauty is often relative and because we have a built-in desire to associate beauty with goodness and health, and ugliness with evil and illness. So a setting where humans are the only beautiful species doesn't necessarily mean that the other species are ugly, just that they're too different from humans to be considered physically attractive. You could use such a setting to explore the idea of intellectual attractiveness, or you could have all the species stay in their own lanes and avoid the idea of cross-species romance altogether. A setting where humans are the ugliest species is more likely to be fantasy than science fiction, or if it is science fiction, then the other species would have to be created by humans. The fact is that humans are designed to see each other as attractive, and so it is vastly unlikely that every alien species would appear to be more beautiful to us than our fellow humans. That being said, such a setting would probably see humans suffer from that instinctual revulsion I mentioned earlier in regards to interspecies relationships, and for their part, humans would likely develop a kind of cultural self-loathing, since we can never seem to stack up to the apparent beauty and perfection of the other races. Age of origin. Unlike the other traits I've discussed, there are a lot of authors who put humans at one extreme when it comes to species age. In the Lord of the Rings setting, humans are the youngest of the main races of elves, dwarves, orcs, and men. And in the Witcher setting, humans are the most recent immigrants to the continent where the story takes place. Then, in science fiction, the Uplift setting features humans as the newest species to join the galactic community, and the same is true of the Mass Effect game series. In these settings, humans are portrayed either as plucky underdogs ready to upset the system with new ideas and inventions, or else as naive invaders prone to violence and foolish mistakes. Either way, it's a stereotype associated with youth. But what if humans are the oldest known race or species? Maybe the other species were created or uplifted by humans. Maybe the humans are the first species to discover faster-than-light engines, and so they create the galactic community. Or maybe the gods of your setting used humans as a template for the other races. Maybe your setting is a post-human society, and humans are the ancient but extinct progenitors you always see in science fiction settings. In these cases, you can characterize humans as ancient beings full of wisdom and forgotten knowledge, or as old conservative fools stuck in their ways and unwilling to adapt. All the stereotypes of old age, in other words. Aggression. Among their other stereotypes, elves are typically portrayed as more pacifistic and enlightened than humans, while orcs are more aggressive and vicious. So, what if humans are the vicious ones? What if all the other races of the world are overwhelmed by the numbers and the violence of humans? Or what if the other galactic species manage to unite their homeworlds while humans constantly fight wars and commit atrocities against one another, and then unleash that violent urge upon the galaxy? It would be hard to portray humans as the good guys in a setting like that. But then we are talking about comparisons here. Diplomatic and pacifist humans would still exist, since human nature isn't any different, but ultimately most of the war and conflict in the setting would be human in origin. On the other hand, you could have humans be the least aggressive and most cooperative race around. And that is, in reality, one of the things that distinguishes humans from other animals. And I know human history isn't all that peaceful or friendly, but it really is true. Our capacity for trust and cooperation goes far beyond any other species we've seen, with the possible exception of the ones we domesticated. So what if that level of trust isn't a requirement for sapiens? Or what if all of the orcs and the elves of the world are xenophobic and bloodthirsty, while humans are more open to negotiation and diplomacy? It would be a very violent setting, but one with a strong undercurrent of hope. Endurance. Endurance is another thing that humans excel at, compared to most other animals. The reason humans sweat and don't have fur is so that we can stay active during the middle of the day, a time when most other animals take naps to avoid the heat. And there are very few other animals in the world that could even hope to run a marathon. So what if this is our unique trait within the setting? Other sapient species might be stronger or smarter or faster, but humans can endure the harshest conditions with the least amount of assistance out of any of the known species. Endurance isn't as glamorous as those other traits, but it would allow humans to show up in more places and take strategic risks that other races would balk at. Of course, you can still flip this one around. Human endurance might be remarkable on Earth, but all of the other races are even tougher thanks to genetic engineering, evolutionary forces, magic, divine guidance, or any other reason you can think of. By comparison, humans are weak and sickly, and may need some help toughening up, or else some sort of protection if toughening up is impossible. Intelligence. I saved this one for last because, while it is a trait that humans can be best or worst at, you're also playing with fire if you try it. The fact is that humans are the smartest is something that's been done before, especially in early science fiction, but typically it was done in a way that had racial undertones, or racial overtones. This is because white supremacy includes the idea that white Europeans are inherently smarter than non-whites, and it is thus the white man's burden to lead the other races and to educate them to whatever standard they're capable of achieving. So if you make humans the smartest race in your setting, or even if you make a non-human race the smartest, while also loading them up with other positive features, you are straying into real-life racial propaganda, whether you intended to or not. This is why most modern settings try to keep everyone on a level intellectual playing field, even though there could be other species out there that are sapient, but not quite on a human's level. Of course, there could also be species that have gone somewhere beyond sapience, or species that have a different approach to reasoning that would make them seem inept or handicapped by human standards, but which, in exchange, allows them to excel in other areas where humans appear inept. Imagine a species with perfect emotional understanding but no spatial awareness, or a species that can instantly understand new languages but can't understand how numbers work. Exploring the idea of a truly alien intelligence is a good basis for a story, but you should always keep in mind that you are a human, and you're writing for a human audience, which means that certain comparisons are going to be inevitable. By keeping humans as the standard race, you allow the other races or species of your setting to explore all sorts of different values and expectations. However, by making humans exceptional in some way, you cause your audience to focus on that exception and on what it means to be unusual in that way. What does it mean to be tall when you don't consider yourself tall? Or what does it mean to be old when you think of yourself as young? That is the sort of thing you can do when you make humans exceptional. Thanks for joining me again for today's journey into Weaving Worlds. Please like, share, and subscribe because that raises my visibility here on YouTube. Check out my other stuff if you have some time, support me on Patreon if you have some money, and I hope I'll see you again for the next video.